I don't think that happened.
Who
Also,
was?
welcome
Who
everyone.
wasn't?
What an interesting sentence to start our second session of Call of Cthulhu. I think he was in My Little Pony, which is its own kind of Lovecraftian horror, if I was so bold as to say, but in a different
And
way,
can be taken out of context.
just like Cthulhu. I mean, anyway, welcome everyone to session 2 of Call of Cthulhu Memento Mori. I am Dare Wolf, the Keeper, tonight, and joining me are 4 really cool dudes, 3 of which I consider my friends. I'm going to keep the one that I don't a secret. You might find out at the end. Stick around for potential prize.
It's
But
Matthew.
we're
There's
going
no,
off the
there's
table.
no,
We're going
there's
to
no.
have everyone introduce themselves, tell us who they're playing, and then we're going to do a recap. We're going to do a recap from Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Matthew. Now you know which one I don't like. But with that being said, let's go around the table. Sambe, Professor Hex, Matthew, Symbol. Take it away, gentlemen.
Sunbay, also known as Jeff in the real world, playing Anton Andreevich Orlov, your smuggler and deliverer of fine items.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I do.
It's
I don't
me.
do anything else.
Yes.
Shit, I missed my cue. Yeah, it's me.
Hey, Prof. It's
Cut. Take 2.
Hey, well, I got. You can't do that. I'm part of the union. All right.
The union disbanded like 6 months ago. Okay, get to your places. And 3, 2, 1, action.
Yeah. Stick
Does
out
it
your
start with
tush.
me again, or
Yeah.
No. We're
run it
starting
again.
from his
Run
pickup.
it again.
From his
Oh,
pickup. Professor
sorry,
X.
yeah.
I
We're gonna
can't
lead
work
him
in
in.
these conditions.
And I'm Jeffrey in the real world. And
Hi, I'm Professor Hex, and I will be playing Amara Al Haradi, a female Moroccan private investigator.
Hello,
all right, we
everyone.
need one more run through on that. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Okay,
Matthew.
I'll give it a try. Yeah.
No, we're good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I'm going to be playing David Knox, who is a young medical student at Arkham University, and he was a farmer growing up.
I am Symbol, and I play Reginald Bakery the Third, big game hunter.
Your microphone sounds really good, man. I gotta tell you.
What?
It
What's that?
does. It does sound really good.
What?
Very nice improvement.
This better or?
I don't know. As long as
Only
you
we
say.
could do something about that voice.
Well, there it is. So,
Sorry, I'm stuck with it. Like
Matthew, give us a quick little recap. What happened on last episode?
Well, last episode, the intrepid group of investigators arrived in Arkham through various means in order to visit a friend, mutual acquaintance, who was on his deathbed under strange circumstances, one Rupert Merriweather. After they actually visited Rupert Merriweather and encountered his rather obnoxious son, who is only interested in his potential inheritance, they learned that in his youth, Mr. Merriweather had seemingly unleashed some sort of demonic force, an extra-dimensional entity, and it is now confined to a farmstead somewhere outside of Arkham. He then handed over a box that he said would explain the events surrounding this hunting and give us some insight as to how we might combat it. The investigators, forging a bond based on their shared appreciation for Merriweather, went to a cafe and examined the contents of that box, learning about the events that transpired, the people who were part of this bizarre ritual that was used to summon forth a demonic creature, and realized that this creature would be set free if all the people involved in that ritual were dead. And as they realized that, they also encountered some kind of bizarre supernatural occurrence wherein the name of the last member of this group appeared on a list of the deceased. And we realized that Rupert Merriweather had passed, meaning that the creature is possibly free now, if it even exists. But of course, it doesn't, because all that is just, fiddle faddle and rot and nonsense.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to open our scene at a small little bed and breakfast. Not small by Reginald's, I guess, comparative, experiences in the past.
We're in America. We can't all have Victorian houses to properly...
Sure. Literal castles. But we see this quaint little kind of plantation style home just outside the outskirts of the city. You all have taken the time to stay here at the request of Reginald, and all of you had a relatively restful evening, despite the strange letters that you wrote, despite the, uncomfortable and strange occurrences you saw with Merriweather himself, this gout of blood. You each rested well. What was strange, though, is that when you awaken in the morning, you feel like you dreamed, but you don't recall what the dreams were. There's just vivid emotions. Very, very, you can feel your skin still crawling, but you don't know what was crawling on it. You can feel that your heart was likely just pounding in this dream, but you don't recall what was scaring you. These are the feelings you wake up with, knowing you dreamed, but having no recollection of what it was, but it's leaving you with a kind of unsettled feeling. Our first check of the day is actually going to be a sanity check, as you're all feeling a little stressed out by this.
Joy.
Wow.
Jesus, Herbert Walker Christ.
So far, so good.
I can't work in these conditions. It's over. Sorry.
Are you leaving? Are you quitting?
No.
It's a real shame.
Bye.
I mean, if you go, Professor X goes, and then Matthew.
Yeah.
And really, the whole thing falls apart.
I'm just
only
looking
here
for an
for Max,
excuse
after
to
all.
leave. Yeah.
I'm
so
looking for your sanity roll,
we'll
Reginald.
go together.
What's sanity? What are we talking about? What's going on?
I asked
What's
you to
happening?
roll. I asked you to roll a sanity roll because you had strange not dreams. Nice. So
Of course.
Amara and David. Amara, you awoke. You found yourself not laying in bed in one of the little rooms of this bed and breakfast, but you found yourself standing in front of a mirror. You have a long body length mirror that's on, the little wooden sides, little legs. You're standing in front of it, wearing whatever you wear for evening, a nightgown, or I don't know, boys' clothing, because that's what Amara does. But you find yourself, you awaken, you actually have to catch yourself. You were recently dreaming about something, and as your eyes kind of adjust to this morning, just a little bit of morning light coming in, you can see bits of dust, little particles kind of settling in the air. You notice that you're staring at this mirror, and the mirror is cracked. And it's cracked as though someone or something had struck it. And as you look down, you actually see there's just a little bit of blood that has kind of trickled down the front of the mirror. There's just a tiny little splot on the ground in front of it. And then you suddenly realize your right hand, it hurts. It hurts quite a bit. You look down, you see that there is a just ever so small shard of glass in between the second and third knuckle, just kind of sticking out, small enough to where you can pick it out, but your hand is slightly bleeding. As you look back towards the mirror, for a second, you see not yourself, but just two red, glowing, dark eyes. A split second, you blink, and then you may proceed as you see fit, but you're going to take 2 sanity damage. And that's because of the roll. I'm going to leave you there for just a moment, Amara, let you think about what's happening. David, similarly, you had stayed in one of the rooms at the request of Reginald. Your night, you felt like you rested well, but when you awaken in the morning, you find that you are not sitting in the same bed that you went to in the evening, but you are standing in front of a mirror looking out towards the east direction, towards the ocean, as it were. And this particular house is kind of nearish to the coast. You can see a little bit of the ocean, but as you're staring out at the ocean, you know that you can kind of see and feel the heat of the sun kind of warming on your face. But as you look out of the ocean, all you see, as your eyes kind of start to adjust, you open them for the first time, it's just a ocean of blackness. You see no light, you see no birds, you see nothing. You see nothing out on the ocean. This feeling, this kind of emptiness, as though you are staring into the literal void of space, settles in down deep in your core. You blink, you rub your eyes, shake your head for a moment, and then you see the morning sun. You see some seagulls out. You can actually see some folks have probably gone out to the beach. They've got those giant 1920s beach balls. They're bouncing it back and forth. People look like they're having a relatively good time, right? A relatively good time. But this feeling, this kind of empty void feeling, this moment that you saw, that settles in with you, and you take 2 sanity damage as well from that failed check. The other 2, you awaken in bed, feeling fine. You know you had some sort of dream, but it doesn't feel like it was anything that important. But we're actually going to continue with David here. As David, there's a very loud, very sharp knock on the door to your bedroom.
And David pauses for a moment as he's looking out at that ocean, blinks a few times as if he's trying to clear his vision of the mundane and the prosaic scene of the people out on the beach, and then turns to the door and he'll open it.
As you open it, it is the woman who runs this particular bed and breakfast, a gal by the name of Betty. Looks to be maybe in her late 30s. She's, is it spinster is the right word? Or she's a widower, widow, as it were. And she carries herself as though she's always incredibly busy. She's always got somewhere to be and can't be bothered with anything else. She's a good host. The dinner last night was very good. The bed sheets are clean. Everything is very nice. You've got water. She's attentive, but she's always carrying herself like, it's very quick. David, correct? It was David, yes?
Yes.
Good. This boy or man, someone, he dropped off this letter for you. There was a package along with it as well, an envelope, as it were. And in her hand, she has a letter that's just a little bit bigger than your standard like postcard. It's wrapped in this kind of twine. There's a wax seal on the back of it as well. It's got a big M burned into it, or melted into it. And then she has a manila envelope as well. That's relatively large, looks to be probably legal size paper. She's kind of awkwardly handing them to you.
David will sort of slouch ever so slightly, de-emphasizing the disparity in their heights, and reach out to take the letter from her. Thank you, ma'am. Was it just a delivery boy or a messenger?
He didn't say who he was. He just delivered it. I don't have time for this. If you need anything else, let me know. Breakfast is in 30 minutes. And she just heads off down the hall. Knock, knock, knock on the door. Reginald, you hear the morning knock. Knock, knock, knock on the door. Anton, you hear the morning knock. And Amara still standing in front of the mirror. I'd like to just follow along with you as you hear that quick knock on your door as well. Breakfast in 30. Then the woman is off.
I think Amara would have been slightly startled by that. Not so much that she would jerk per se, but that her neck would sort of, snap over to the door in a kind of a fight or flight adrenaline reaction, right? When she realizes that it's just, the breakfast call, she would take a steadying breath, and then she would look down at her hand again, where there's that piece of glass sort of set in. Mm-hmm. Is there any gauze in the room?
Absolutely, there can be some gauze for sure.
Okay. Well, then she would make her way to her luggage, mm-hmm. Take out from a side compartment a flask. Mm-hmm. She would place that on the nearby table, the bedside table, would decisively but slowly remove the piece of glass just with her fingers, mm-hmm. right? Take it out. She'd wince just a little bit. Take a look at it, place it down on the side table, grab the flask, pop it open, just a little bit of trickle of alcohol in there to sort of disinfect. Mm-hmm. And then she would take some gauze and just sort of tightly, but, quickly kind of wrap her hand slightly. And with that, then she would get out her cigarette, light up, mm-hmm. take a drag, take a look at the mirror again. Where exactly was the point of impact?
So if you're looking at the mirror, imagine it's a body length, let's call it a 3-foot mirror. Okay.
Yeah.
So mm-hmm. you see it. And if you look at if it's got 3 sections, so the top, middle, and the bottom, mm-hmm. top right is where she impacted it. Like she was punching at the top right corner of it.
Okay, so it looks as if, based on Amara's height, which is like 5'3", she could reach that part of the mirror.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So she'd kind of take a moment, kind of take stock of it, take another drag of her cigarette, and then get to sort of dressing for the day, right? Putting on another, sort of New York or sort of Boston street suit.
As you are looking at the mirror in particular, you mentioned that, so I'd like to give you a chance to notice that there is something strange potentially about that mirror. So if you want to roll either investigate or any sort of sight-based skill, anything like that, to see if you notice what's going on there.
Sure, I'll roll a spot hidden.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay. That was a hard success. Excellent. So what you would notice, Amara, is that the impact spot, the particular way that the blood has splattered on this mirror, it's kind of hard to tell, but you see that it almost looks, and you squint your eyes, Amara, you're looking over at it, you take the drag of your cigarette, it almost looks like a hieroglyph. It can't be, though. Could it? I mean, potentially, but it looks like a hieroglyph, and it kind of reminds you of one of the hieroglyphs on that wooden box. Now, who kept the wooden box? Is it in your room, Amara?
That would have been my next question. If anybody hadn't taken it, I probably would have.
You took it at the end of the last session.
Then I would have kept it with me.
Yep.
Where did you leave it, Amara?
It would have been, I would have set it apart from the rest of my things. Like if there is a table across from the bed, right? The kind of thing where you'd, set up, maybe there's a dresser or something. It would have been right there just so that I could keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So as perhaps your gaze drifts over to that dresser, the wooden box is not there.
Merde. I would start sort of looking nearby the table or the dresser area to see if it had fallen off or it had gotten, if it was still in the room, basically. Just on a quick spot check.
It doesn't take you long. You quickly get up, look around the side, and you see that it is on the floor as though perhaps it was knocked very aggressively. So if you've got your bed in front of, if you're staring at if you're at the foot of the bed, you're looking at it, you have this little nightstand where it was set. And then there's a good 6 feet until you get to the corner of the room, and it's all the way over in the corner, still closed, but it's just kind of sitting in the corner, straight up and down, as though it's like a sarcophagus almost. It looks like it's straight up and down, like it was on display.
I think Amara would take another drag, slowly approach the box, pick it up delicately, like you would sort of a newborn or a Fabergé egg or something, right? Very delicately place it back on its original table, right? And then grab one of the pillows from the bed and just kind of almost frustratedly just kind of pop the pillow right on top of it and just back up a little bit. Let's you walk around with that, huh? Who's next to me? Like, is there anybody in the room
Reginald.
to my left or right? Okay. Then I would knock on the wall, give a couple of raps, and hopefully the wall's not too thick, but
Reginald, you hear you know that it's Amara staying.
Reginald?
Yes, my dear.
Would you come in here quickly, please?
But of course. You hear the click clack of the cane walking coming along, the rasp of the cane on the door.
She would open it up and let you in. Come in quickly.
My dear, your hand. You should have Bernard look at it.
It is nothing. And more importantly, take a look at the mirror here.
That is quite a show, yes. Do I also have to roll?
Are you trying to point out, Amara, that the blood splatter kind of looks like a hieroglyph?
I'm about to, yeah. I just wanted him to take a look at the the situation first.
Sure.
So roll of spot hidden or
He's going to point it out to you. You see the blood splatter. It looks a little weird. You would see everything I've described to Amara so far. Yeah.
I know we are not terribly well acquainted with each other, but I can tell you that I am not in the habit of punching my own image, and yet that is exactly what I found. I don't believe anyone else was in my room.
This quite disturbing.
Oh no, I'm not finished. Come look. Take a look. And she would point out the impact and the blood, and
it looks a little bit like a hieroglyph. Yeah.
Hieroglyph. Can I? What can I do? What can I do? Maybe some history to try and decipher, or
yeah. I mean, if you want to make a knowledge history check, see if you can decipher what this particular hieroglyph means, why it might be important.
Education, or
either of those would work. If you're going to do history, it's going to be a hard check. If you're just going to do straight education, it's going to be extreme.
All right. No.
Fortunately not. You know it's Egyptian. You know it's a hieroglyph.
I don't know shit, my dear.
Well, my dear, I must say that it might be a little bit too early and I haven't had my morning tea. I do recognize that it is almost something.
No. It is not almost something. That is a hieroglyph, Egyptian. Even I can recognize this, and I'm not exactly an Egyptologist.
There's a creak at the door, and Anton, you had gotten up early to go use the lavatory, and you're walking by, you see that Amara's door is slightly open, and you hear a conversation between her and Reginald. So I'm curious, would you interject, Anton, or would you walk by?
Oh, no, I don't want to interrupt in private dealings of what they are doing.
Fair enough. Anton walks by.
And I snicker as I walk by.
Awkward.
I'm not asking you to give it some sort of importance that it clearly it does not hold yet. It is strange, no?
That it is, madame. That it is.
I need some coffee or something. Is there breakfast here?
Yes, I believe in less than 30 minutes, the old girl that takes care of this place came by and knocked on all our doors, I believe.
Bon. I will meet you downstairs. Lock up. And she just strides out and heads downstairs.
Reginald, you're left here yourself. As you turn to go to the door, there is a kind of clattering sound. You look over to see a pillow and the box lying on the floor.
No, we can't have that just lying about. I pick it up. But I don't hide it. I just hold it with one hand and take my cane and go down to the kitchen.
I love your mindset. I'd like to pivot back over to David. David, you've heard a little bit of a commotion outside. Someone, their cane rapping. You're on the other side of Reginald. You heard kind of this muffled heard someone potentially calling, but you've been a little preoccupied as you have a letter that is addressed to you from one Rupert Merriweather, and then a very large, very thickly packed manila envelope. Now imagine one of those kind of standard yellow envelopes with a little red string you tie around it. It's all folded over, and it seems to be filled with a stack of papers about an inch deep, like an inch wide. Very, very thick stack of papers.
So most of the conversation and even some of those more noticeable sounds have passed over him without recognition as he stares down at that wax insignia that's been emblazoned on the envelope. He's almost lost for a few moments as he traces the curves and the grooves, almost falling into the impressions. And then with that rap of the cane, he sort of is shaken, and he's going to return to his room, place it down on the table, and crack the wax seal, flipping it open.
Excellent. So as you open the wax seal of the actual letter, it's addressed to you from, Rupert Merriweather. You pull out, it's a very thin piece of paper, and it's just folded once. Looks like it was maybe something that he kept on his desk, a little notepad. And the letter itself seems to be either written hastily, as the writing is somewhat atrocious, or the writer was shaking when they wrote it, when Reginald wrote it. It's not Reginald, Rupert, excuse me. But the letter simply states, I understand what people might think of me, David. I understand that my son may think this is a punishment, and in some ways it is. But I've told you once, and I hope before I died I was able to tell you again. But if not, I say it here. You are the son that I wish I had. My fortune is yours. And that's all it says. And it's signed Rupert Merriweather.
And he's just going to sort of lean back in that chair, somewhat staggered, staring down, not even at the words that he has received this tremendous inheritance, but at the line that you're like the son that I never had. And he's going to just cogitate, almost get stuck in the recollection of the last moments, the last time he heard it, the wheezing coughs and hacks of blood, and the gout of blood that took the man from him. And then just fold the letter very carefully, slip it back in the envelope, and go over to his luggage, where he'll put it into a side compartment, almost daintily, as much as his clumsy and thick fingers can allow. And he'll then return to the envelope with a package of documents and just take a very quick peek at what they are. He's not going to look at anything, but he just wants to know what they are.
It is a trust that effectively gives you full control of his entire estate, his fortune, to distribute it as you see fit or keep as you see fit. You are effectively the executor and the inheritor of his entire fortune, and he was incredibly wealthy, probably even more wealthy than Reginald himself, which is saying something. But there is a clause in this binding document that Rupert Merriweather made a request. That request must be completed prior to securing the inheritance. That's all it says. You have all the documents, the request, etc. There is a letter, or not a letter, but there's like a little, almost like a business card, I would call it, like a little business card inside for a particular lawyer in town in Arkham. And it states once the task is done to see him. Doesn't state that there has to be any sort of proof or anything like that. It's just, Rupert, he trusted you as a man of your word, is what it seems. This is that kind of last bit of respect and trust that he had for you.
Then he'll take that pile of documents and just sort of slip them haphazardly underneath the clothing inside of the suitcase. He'll remove the second letter and the business card, which he'll slip into a breast pocket, and the document that contains the description of that which is required for him. Obviously, he suspects that it's going to be something about the entity or the location related to him, but he'll take that and then, I guess, close the door behind him and head to breakfast, where he heard the rest of the party going. So
you're the only ones staying at this bed and breakfast just outside of the kind of main limits of Arkham, but it's a hearty meal. There's bacon and eggs and some homemade biscuits. There's even a little bit of gravy from last night's meal. She turned into a bit of this kind of like a chicken gravy, as it were. It's actually very good, little chunks of chicken inside of it. And she's very hurriedly, serving everyone. There's a nice piping hot cup of coffee for you, Amara. Do you take it? She'll ask, do you take it with cream, sugar?
That's what happens when I'm muted. She says, no sugar, but 2 cream. Yeah.
Bloop, bloop. Pours a little bit of actual fresh cream into the coffee, and you're all able to sit down. She busies herself with getting the meal prepped. It smells delicious. It smells hearty. It smells like adventure, as it were, but realistically. But you have all sat down. You've had a couple minutes to eat a little bit, drink your coffee, and I'm going to leave the scene to all of you.
I'm terribly sorry, Amara, but it seems that the box did not want to be to remain hidden. So I have brought it with us this morning, and you'll notice in front of me there's the box.
I'm not entirely certain that was wise, Reginald.
I mean, keeping an eye on it seems a prudent venture at this time.
But what if it is keeping eye on us, no? And is listening to us talking?
A box listening to us.
You know they have the radio, no? Maybe
Inspect
whoever-
it, see if there's any of these radios or transceivers or...
This is all magic. I don't know. If what Rupert was saying is true, anything could be possible.
In the broad light of day, you're not all still clinging to poor Mr. Merriweather's fantastical delusions, are you?
I had a dream last night, but this feeling, but I don't know what it was. You I look at the others. Did anybody else have dream? It's not, I don't know if bad, I don't know if good, just was something, and I don't know what it was. So I take it, if anything is maybe possible. Better safe than sorry, no?
As Freud has shown us, dreams are merely the manifestation of our subconscious fixations and childhood preoccupations. It's only natural that we would have disturbed sleeps. And it might even linger into the day because of what transpired yesterday. We saw something most horrible.
Is he a teacher at your school?
Oh my, no. No.
By the same token, David, it is only natural that you want to have sex with your mother.
That's more of
David?
an allegory. My mother was dead before I was born, so that
would
no,
make
not
it
before I was born. That's not possible.
Oh, it's magic again. You deny it.
Fair enough. I'm sorry. I'm adult, like you said. I did have an unpleasant sleep, but my mother died before I had a chance to remember her. I should say it that way.
Well, that would make it difficult, yes.
Yes. Well,
No.
and he just actually downs half of a cup of coffee, shaking his head at his own sort of tongue-tied stupefaction.
Mm-hmm.
But you did have a poor sleep, and so did the rest of us, it seems.
I don't know if mine was good. I don't know if bad was like nothing, but was something. I am. It's probably me. In English, it's not coming out good.
I'm starting to wonder if there are English words for this.
We got Rucha Poruski.
I'm sorry.
Nothing.
The language of the Ruskies can be very tricky.
Yeah. Okay. I stick with English then.
And we are most grateful, my good man.
What are we doing about this? What is our next move?
Takes out a little notebook with a little charcoal pen on his little glasses.
Did you have something, Mr. Bakery?
The golden sarcophagus. Where is it? And what is this wooden one in the box?
Both questions would require research, I imagine. The Miskatonic does have some Egyptologists and archaeologists on staff.
Then that is a good place to start.
The less known whereabouts of the gold sarcophagus, from what we understand, is we can only assume that if it is not moved, it is still in New Orleans.
Also, a good point to go visit.
Yeah,
Chase
New
is on,
Orleans.
gentlemen and lady.
It doesn't matter.
But we need to go to university for the book on the bugs, no?
The
What they call
Divermus
it.
Mysterious?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. The one that gave him everything about the bug in the crystal.
Yes, before we go traipsing off to New Orleans, we should do what we can here in the Arkham area.
Of course.
New Orleans is a long drive.
You don't have to say that again.
I'm glad.
Well, Mr. Marion Allen, who last had the sarcophagus, died under mysterious circumstances, likely murdered for such a priceless artifact. It is possible that there are more mundane explanations for the deaths of his compatriots. I would suggest that I be the one to investigate their death records. Perhaps there's some commonality in their medical records that could shed light on the fungal infection that, or disease, or whatever it might be, that actually claimed Mr. Merriweather's life.
My boy, you speak with great wisdom.
David, are you trying to get to the truth of the matter, or are you trying to arrive at your own answer?
The truth is that chicanery and flim-flam and all manner of belief in gods and witches have been used to browbeat and control people throughout the centuries. They have been the subject of innumerable crimes against humanity itself. The witch burnings in Salem, not so far from here, that are very, very far in the past to people in a civilized city like Boston, but took place only yesterday, and maybe in many ways take place even today. I am merely speaking out against such nonsense. That's my truth. That's the conclusion that I've reached.
My boy, do not let these fears hold you and guide you. You must find your own path. Do not close your mind to other possibilities. When on the hunt, you may also be hunted. Now, as much as this copious American breakfast has filled my poor British soul, and this concoction you call coffee here, we must devise and conquer. Wait, that came out wrong.
I think you mean divide.
Thank you, my dear.
So we're in a situation now, gentlemen, where I think I know where you guys want to go. It seems like you guys want to start doing some research into the legitimacy of some of the information you read in Merriweather's journal. So potentially some of the deaths, a little bit more research into the sarcophagus itself. Who would like to go first? What would you like to look into? Because it seems like the two main things are investigate the deaths and then also investigate the sarcophagus and try to figure out what's going on with that. Who would like to start and who wants to do what?
I did want to say that I was going to raise the issue of the letter that I received.
Oh, please. No, absolutely. Go for it. We can continue. Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure how we would have transitioned into that, but as the conversation sort of continues and we reflect on our positions, it would eventually sort of turn to the ultimate objective that Mr. Merriweather wanted us to complete. And in that opportune moment, David would actually raise the point that I actually received a posthumous posting, I suppose, from Mr. Merriweather. He's
What
going
did it
to
say?
place the letter on the table. The personal matter, I should say, there was one letter that was for me, and the other, I believe, is for all of us to consider.
Go on, my boy. Tell us.
Well, takes the envelope off the table, cracks it open, and examines it in front of the rest.
What's in it, Wolf?
Oh, it's you brought the part that says that, you have to complete the task, right?
Yes.
That's
but,
all it says, is that you have to complete the task that he would have given to you on it, like the last time he spoke to you. That's all it says.
Oh.
Yeah. There's no additional information.
I had assumed that he was going to elaborate, but
That's it?
he was quite terse in his his final hours, I imagine.
There's not the Merriweather I remember.
Slowly asphyxiating to death will change your mode of speech.
Of course. Now, my boy, I believe you wanted to investigate the cause of death of our dear friend.
Yes, his, although I doubt I'll be able to gain access to his medical records, but that of the compatriots he had in his youth. If I may, Mr. Bakery, you might have the most sway at the university considering your means.
Very well.
This is a good thought. You could approach the university investigating the possibility of becoming a benefactor with around a considerable amount of your pound sterling, and they would open up their doors to you, as it were.
Seems reasonable, as you Americans like to say.
I'm not American.
Just looking out around the table, there's like one American.
It's like one American. Yeah. There are two Americans in this whole building.
Very well. Yes. Okay.
The university, the medical records. Yeah.
Yes. And Mr. Orlov, you have, as I understand it from my brief conversations with Mr. Merriweather, some he sort of shuffles uncomfortably and grips the mug on the table, even though it's empty. Unique skills. And he raises it up towards his mouth and realizes that it is empty. Awkwardly sets it down on the table. I'm not sure how you might employ them in the situation.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I can pay attention to things, and I am able to hide things quite well. So
Your microphone is up, Sunbay.
Sometimes I can, when working for Merriweather, was moving things that he did not want to be seen. So sometimes I've been able to help him find things that others did not want to be seen.
Well, his records, the records of his son, I'm not sure.
brings up a good point. I have an idea. The person closest to Mary at the time, apart from you, David, of course, is his son. Why don't we have eyes on him? What is he doing? Does he know about any of this? Is he putting on some sort of show so that he can deal with his sarcophagus in secret, perhaps? I think someone should shadow him, and I am perfectly suited for that task.
Is good, but do you think anybody should be going alone? I've heard stories about you in Boston, so I know you can handle yourself, so it's no problem. But that means either Sir Bakery have to go by himself or Mr. David go by himself. I go with the other one.
Reginald won't be alone. He has his caretaker.
I have Bernard.
Yeah, he has Bernard.
If we all only had the Bernard.
Oh yes, one mild heart attack away from certain death.
Is
No, you
if,
got
if everybody on that list of names came to unfortunate end, so anybody trying to look into it should be careful too.
Hey.
That is something I can help out with.
That is well observed, Anton. Let me propose. I will go with Reginald here and act as his, we shall say, assistant or accountant, executor of parts of his estate to provide some security. And Anton, you go with David here and protect him should any of this medical digging rustle any corpses, if you understand my meaning.
And these I can do. He's okay with David.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Given my rather boorish behavior when we encountered each other first yesterday, and the fact that you did try to act in my defense with Mr. Merriweather's son, I'm more than confident in your abilities and comfortable with that arrangement.
It's good. It's no problem. I like you. This is good.
Thank you, Mr. Orlov.
I believe we have a plan.
Yes, and we are burning daylight. It is best if we head out as soon as possible. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to our respective locations, and who knows what will be in our way.
And we all have transportation, so
We.
it's good. David, you can ride with me.
Thank you, sir.
There's room.
I was going to take the bus, but since you've offered, thank you.
There's no need. The family won't mind.
So we pivot over, and these investigations will likely take several days. We're going to do this in a kind of a montage kind of thing where we'll be having you guys do your research, you'll be getting some information, and then after several days have passed, we'll then pivot on to, perhaps a discussion where everyone comes together. And you're obviously sharing information that you gather during the days, but just to kind of keep things simple, we'll do it in sort of this montage-y kind of way. So we're going to start with researching into, I believe you wanted to research, David and Anton, you're going to look into the murders of the cult members, as it were. Is that correct?
Well, thanks for telling us they're cult members. Okay.
It was in the thing. The
They're
brotherhood.
They're
kids playing
cult members.
Things, yes, but yes. So investigating
want
their
to be
deaths
cult members.
What is it? Cult members. There you go.
and cross-reference their deaths with the symptoms of Mr. Merriweather that we were able to overhear, and anything about the environment in the region that they visited when they were young that might provoke those symptoms. So I guess that's like a kind of medicine and natural world together.
I like it. So a great place to start, you start thinking about it, David, and a great place to start would be to reach out to, you actually do find, forgive me, you actually do find a handout, an article As you start to research deaths around that time, you're actually looking to Merriweather, you find an article. It says August 14th, 1887. It's a little kind of tear out. It's at the local library. They have some, news clippings and things from different places, and they happen to have news clippings from New Orleans because this is important stuff. It's like in the murder section. Lots of old women there reading about murder mysteries and whatnot. But it says New Orleans. The body of Mr. Marion Allen, late of Arkham, Massachusetts, was discovered early this morning near the Gulf of Panama docks. A victim of foul play, the man was identified by local witnesses who said that Mr. Allen had been seen in the locale the evening before. Although robbery was the apparent motive, police report that the victim had gruesome marks carved into his forehead and his tongue had been cut out. Mr. Allen had reportedly gone to the police earlier this week claiming that he was being followed and that he feared for his life. He said his shadowy pursuers were after an Egyptian artifact which he no longer possessed.
Just to clarify, Wolf, you said 1887 it sounded like, but did
Correct.
you mean 1877?
No, 1887.
Well, there was the October 14th, 1877 letter that says Marion Allen was already dead for some months.
Oh, you know what? It's a typo. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Forgive me.
Okay,
It is totally
just
a
want
typo.
to make sure.
Yeah, it says 87, but it's got to be 77 because that's what it said. You're absolutely right. That's got to be a typo. Forgive me. Immersion ruins.
No.
Not like this. All right. But you find that. Next step, you actually see that there was some correspondence from Rupert to the police officers and whatnot over in New Orleans, the coroner, etc. So you're actually able to request some information with regards to the death specifically. Like you reach out, takes several days, they send you a package back. It's all public records. You can request it. But I'm going to go ahead and actually show you the additional information that you get, David. And if you want to go ahead and you can read that, that is the information that you get back.
All right. Read it aloud to the group, or
Yeah, please.
Okay. New Orleans Police Department statement of Corman Howard Patrol Officer entered Tuesday, August 14th, 1877. I was on my assigned route through the docks and warehouse quarter, nearing the Gulf of Panama docks at 5:47 a.m., when I saw a sign of a person lying among some shipping crates. I first thought it was a vagrant asleep. As I moved closer to rouse the subject, I then saw bloodstains. On closer inspection, the victim was dead. He was laying on his back, arms splayed. His chest was opened up with the full contents visible, ribs opened. The head was thrown back, mouth open. Since there was obviously nothing I could do to help the victim, I hurried to the nearest adjacent beat where I knew where I would find Officer Wood. I told him what I found, and I instructed him to get assistance. I would go back and secure the crime scene. When I got back, some dock workers had gathered around, and one was endeavoring to go through the victim's pockets. I stopped him and had the men move away from the body. I then inspected the man to make sure nothing was taken. At this time, it was light enough to see details more clearly, and I saw the mark on the victim's forehead. It was a symbol of unknown origin carved into his skin as with a sharp penknife or similar weapon. I found a tarpaulin nearby, which I carefully laid across the victim until detectives could arrive on scene. New Orleans Police Department statement of Warren Harold Detective entered Tuesday, August 14th, 1877. I was assigned to the case and immediately went to the scene to gather information. Officer Corman was present, keeping the dock workers back from the scene. He informed me that while he was getting assistance, one of the workers had started to rifle through the victim's pockets. He said that he searched the man, but it appeared that no items were stolen. I found the victim's wallet still in his jacket pocket, identifying him as Marion Marcus Allen of Arkham, Massachusetts. No money was found in the wallet or anywhere else on him. The victim's head had characters carved into it. Bone was visible. The mouth was open, and I could see no sign of his tongue, which looked to have been severed or removed. The man's rib cage had been torn open, and the organs had been cut or mutilated in some manner. I request that the medical examiner verify the placement and count of all internal organs. There were some footprints around the body, all on the side facing the opening in the pile of crates. There was some blood dried on the body and ground, but not enough to fit with the wounds. I surmised that the killing happened elsewhere, and the body was placed at the docks afterwards. Office of the Medical Examiner for State of Louisiana, City of New Orleans. Report by Dr. Wilbur Lawrence. The victim, Marion Marcus Allen, had been killed by a single powerful blade thrust to the bottom of his rib cage, cutting upwards as if to separate the ribs from the breastbone. Hands were then used to pry the rib cage apart. The tongue was cut out, likely while the victim was dying. There was a symbol of unknown origin carved into the skin of the forehead. The cuts were deep enough so that the symbol was etched into the skull. The victim's liver and heart were missing. Both organs were removed with a sharp blade, although the procedure was crude. Police corroborated that no evidence of the missing organs was found in the scene. Abrasions and bruises to the wrists and legs indicate that the victim was tied and beaten before death.
And I'd like to pivot to a scene. We're kind of going to do this as though you've all gathered back together. You're back at the table. It's late. It's been about 4 days since you started your investigations, and you've all reconvened. So, David, you've just finished reading the information that you found, and I want to give you all a chance to discuss it. And then once you get to a point where it's like, and this is what I found, we'll then pivot over to what information Reginald and Amara were able to pick up as well.
My God, this is very bone shivering, very ritualistic, if you will.
And, it's some crime families do terrible things too, but not so many different ones. This was...
In my time in Africa, I met with the Zulu people. And they told me tales of other tribes that would do these ritualistic killings, inscribing the symbol of their gods onto the body of their victim as a way to attract their gods.
And did they take away some of the inside the organs too?
That for me is a new one.
Yeah, that's...
Thinking along the Egyptian lines, it was common, of course, for the dead to have their organs extracted from the chest and the abdomen, but it was from a cut on the left side, not something so brutal as you are describing, David. Also, they would leave the heart inside because that was the seat of the soul, intelligence, and so on. So this is this does not track with the traditional Egyptian methods.
No, but it does give us an indication maybe they want to do the opposites. Removing the soul, making sure that it can never go to the afterlife, if you will. Or at least that's what they believe.
An intentional perversion.
A desecration in multiple levels, if you believe in that sort of thing. I wonder then if the symbol on the forehead might have had a similar connotation. Was it some sort of curse on the body?
Was the symbol never described or recorded?
Not that I can find, no.
That is strange.
One would think that would be the first thing that you would mention if it had some sort of significance.
At least have a trace of this symbol. If only it was taken care of by Scotland Yard.
I wonder about the individuals who investigated this case. There's a cycle of death that surrounds and expands outwards from this initiating incident. Did they meet unfortunate ends as well?
The medical examiner, you mean?
The detective, the examiner, the officer who found them initially. And just pause here. Jim, was I able to actually look into them and their history after the case to find anything?
They're still, most of them are still alive. One of them is retired. The medical examiner is still examining dead bodies.
That then was the direction my research took me, but it seemed to be a bit of a dead end, so to speak.
I think it is clear that we are dealing with another party here, someone who is some group, perhaps, that is very interested in the sarcophagus, the gold sarcophagus that Marianne was supposed to be carrying. And there is as you say, Reginald, a ritualistic quality to them. It almost a sort of religious or spiritual fervor to them. What else would motivate someone to separate the ribcage with only their hands?
It's exactly as I said about the fervor and depravity that is inspired by this sort of religious sentiment.
Do we have anything to point us in the direction of who they are?
Funny you should ask. We cut to a scene and we see a montage of Rupert meeting with the dean of the university. At first, he's a little standoffish. Then you go, I'm filthy rich. He then becomes very friendly towards you. And
you mean Reginald?
Yes, that's what I said, Reginald. Did I say Rupert? I'm sorry, Reginald.
It's fine.
Yes, we see Reginald. We see that he is just arms wide, welcoming you in. You are shown around, given a full tour. But we're going to pick up a scene where he is discussing with you. It's his private collection. He has a private collection. And perhaps you've mentioned to him that you heard about this De Vermis Mysterious. Yes, we actually have a copy of De Vermis Mysterious back in our private collection, and it is, let me tell you, it is a fascinating collection of ancient texts, some from the Egyptian era, the even beyond that. He just starts to kind of bubble over himself, talk about it. However, unfortunately, it is off limits for everyone, including myself. The librarian, the director of the library, is determined that it is too. Well, he used the word dangerous, but he's a bit off his rocker in my opinion. But yes, we have just a plethora of books, all for research. And actually, let me show you the rest of the library, and he would move you off, and you were able to actually do a little bit of research yourself, Reginald. Look into some, of the history of the actual golden box, the hieroglyphs. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm actually going to have, do you have library use?
Yes, I do. It's
I'm
not
going to have
very
you
good,
make
but it's there.
library use, if you would.
It's not very good.
Unfortunately, that is a 32. So that's the bad news. You're starting to do your research. You're not finding anything. However,
I don't understand these
you do have
American
money.
systems.
You could ask the librarian to research it for you for a solid $2.
Oh, for sure. And,
Whoa.
I know.
And
It's
a 50
expensive.
and a 15-cent tip.
Ooh. So it was going to take her 1D 2 days, but she gets it done in a day. So you actually are able to have the hieroglyphs on the box. You can actually have them translated.
Ask if she can translate a hieroglyph I think I saw, and I try to do the hieroglyph from the mirror.
Excellent. I'm so glad. So here's what you discover. This is what the box says. This is what the hieroglyphs roughly translate to.
All right. And
you also find out that the era, so this particular box is actually mentioned in some ancient texts. It notes that little is known about the box, although scholars believe it has been in the possession of the little-known Nofrka, Nofhru Ka, a would-be usurper of the Egyptian throne who lived during the 3rd dynasty of ancient Egypt. The box was believed to have been given to Kuproka by the gods and was said to contain a djinn that would be called upon to enact some sort of services. The book then states, it gives you a lot of the information that Merriweather had written down, but it collaborates everything that he wrote down. That's what the scholars would say. But it's from this ancient Egyptian dynasties, thousands of years ago. But again, unfortunately, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much money you offer, you are not allowed to read or allowed to look at a copy of De Vermis Mysterious. The librarian just shuts you down. So you can have a scene where you're like, I will pay you. He's like, no. He's like, it's too dangerous.
What gender is the librarian?
Male.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. So I have a pretty good charm stat. So what I'm going to attempt to do.
Oh God.
I'm going to, I will take a cigarette unlit out of the cigarette case that I have. I have
somehow I turn my back to this and I don't know what's
So cut to a scene, Reginald complaining about how much of an asshole this librarian is and won't let him see the book. Cut to a scene the next day of Amara approaching that said librarian with a unlit cigarette. Continue.
Unlit cigarette. I have parted the suit jacket ever so slightly to sort of emphasize that there's, some things that I'm working with. And I will sort of lean over, the desk and offer the cigarette. And I will say, perhaps you can assist me, young man?
No smoking in the library. Goes back to working at his little desk.
Womp womp.
I think I would take the cigarette, just stay there at the desk, put it back into the cigarette case, close it, put it back in. And then my physical, my body language would change completely. And now I'm sort of leaned over on an elbow over the counter. And I would say, listen, I understand that there is a book in the private collection of the library.
Ma'am, what time is it?
I'm not certain. Am I a timekeeper?
Do you see the big clock at the back of the library there? There's a large clock. Like one of those metal hands. It's reading 2:38 in the afternoon.
Could you point it out? I can't find it.
He points over his shoulder.
Ah.
Your people's time doesn't start till 4.
What do you mean, my people's?
He leans forward. Do I really need to spell it out for you?
Please.
He wraps up his stuff, picks it up. Good day. Walks off.
Good. He's left. Now I can get into the area where they keep the books. My plan all along.
All according to Kikaku.
Do I know where the back?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. I'm getting the sense that I can't do this. Is that?
I would have for sure told where it is.
Here's what I'll tell you. It's possible, but it's really hard, and you'll probably end up arrested or worse.
Well, I guess then I would as the guy walks away, I would get a cigarette back out, light it, and I would take the match and extinguish it on the desk. And I would just kind of leave that there and take a big drag and I guess head out to see if I can find Reginald, see if he needs any help with anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Reginald, I think this is a good point to pivot back to our little group scene. And you can share with the group what you read and what the translation was. The symbol that was on the mirror is the name on that handout, this Narlo-Khetep. I say that right, Matthew?
Good enough.
There are many pronunciations.
Exactly. They
Exactly.
can't be produced by the human
Human
vocal cords
tongue,
anyway.
yes.
So who cares?
Fair enough.
You
I
can't do it right.
If I did, I'd actually summon him. We don't want that.
There you go.
So yeah. The golden sarcophagus or coffin or whatever we want to call it. The glyphs or hieroglyphs or symbols on it. Well, no, I'm sorry. Seeker of wisdom, servant, son of Yoag Seteth. These names. Deliverer of the people, slaves of the water, bearer of the spirits of Nahloth Hotep, child of Toth, seeker of wisdom.
The parentheses are that the particular hieroglyph, depending on intention, could mean one of those two words. That's what that stands for.
That's exactly how he reads it. Like
Perfect.
servant, maybe son,
Okay.
Gugur, Yoag.
Okay.
Like he himself is like, I don't speak this language. Like
So those
I-
were not English words. I thought that maybe not understand too well.
some of those were indeed not English words.
The hieroglyphs they can be contextual, so it depends on what the writer is intending.
That does seem to be the case.
Who is there any mention of these names in any of the other texts or the letters? Seteth, Toth, Nyarlathotep?
How many of those names did I, or similar names that I did no?
Nothing.
Nothing in the other research that was produced, but if we remember our discussion the other morning about the incident with your hand, it can be construed that what was on the mirror is Nakhlotep.
I'm sorry, what?
the other day, it was the morning after we arrived at the bed and breakfast. I woke and found myself standing in front of the standing mirror in the corner of the room. There was a spidering crack in the top right corner, and I was standing before it with a bloodied hand and a piece of mirrored glass sticking in between my knuckles. The blood, presumably mine, on the mirror, it was in a peculiar form. It looked like, and Reginald can speak to this, a hieroglyph. And now he is telling me that this is the name of this Nyarlathotep, some kind of god or a demon, a spirit.
The Jinn, maybe?
From the description, it would seem to be the father of this Jinn,
Yes. That is true.
or the master of it.
I don't know what to make of its appearance, only that this is not the first time I have seen this name.
Nor
is-
Lotho. What's that? The first time you've seen that name before?
No, I mean that there is this symbol here and then on the
Ah.
sarcophagus as well.
Ah,
It seems to me that we are rapidly approaching the unlikeliness of coincidence.
One other piece of information, Reginald, that you picked up during this research, the librarian that actually did the research for you, she mentioned as she was giving you this paper, this particular librarian, she was telling you what she discovered, telling you a little bit about the ancient Egyptian period at which it comes from. But then she does finally mention that there were several basically fakes of this particular sarcophagus that have been made and sold to different collectors. Some were plated in gold, some weren't. And perhaps you might surmise that the one you have is maybe a fake. I don't know. Do with that as you see fit, but she does mention that.
I relay that information.
Mm-hmm.
And when she asked me that, I probably went back with sketching of the hieroglyphs on the wooden sarcophagus to see if she could correlate that with what she had before.
So that sarcophagus that we were discussing, that's what had the hieroglyphs on it, just to make sure we're all on the same page. That's what you had the translation of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought we were talking about the golden one.
It's a reproduction of that. It's the same exact sarcophagus. It's just a reproduction of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the golden one's still missing.
Yep, correct.
I was just making sure that it wasn't like the golden one. Yes, we know it's got the real things, but on the fake one, they fucked up and like they put the wrong name or something.
Nope.
They're that good.
Apparently.
Is there anyone, Anton? Do you know of anyone in the city who deals with rare goods, antiquities, anything?
I know some people. Do you want legitimate or not so legitimate?
I think we should err on the side of illegitimate. I'm thinking that perhaps, since there are, as Reginald said, many copies of this have various qualities and perfections, we could perhaps trace where they have been gone, where they were sold, and find perhaps a link, a sort of a catch, something we can hold on to with respect to this group.
I think it would be interesting, Anton, if you were already 2 steps ahead of Amara and maybe had done some research into different things that had been sold and moved around. I think that would make sense, just so we can kind of keep the scene here in this moment, if everyone's all right with that. You're like, I've actually done some research. In fact, Amara, you had mentioned following Rupert's son.
Yeah.
And I would like to fill you in on what you found. He met with a lawyer in town. One Gideon Gardner, the same lawyer that was on the document that David had shown to you all that he's supposed to meet with after the task is completed. Right. You watched him go in. He was in there for about 15 minutes and then came out. His face was red. He looked furious. He got into a car with a driver and left town and hasn't been seen since. You did this the day after. It's the second day of our 4-day kind of investigation scene phase here. You saw it, he has not returned, and he was heading off in the direction of, you guessed it, where a particular farmhouse is located. So there's that. But with that being said, Anton, you also discovered through some of your research into any strange things been coming and going, what was Mr. Merriweather, your old friend Rupert, getting into? Interestingly enough, he was trying to go through some back channels, and perhaps even maybe a little offensively, he wasn't going through your back channels. He was using some less reputable ones. And he was actually looking for, you guessed it, copies. Now, what was interesting as part of your research, part of the questions that you asked Anton, is you also found out that his son was also looking for very similar information, as though he was kind of piggybacking what his father was looking into. Do with that information and share that with the group as you see fit.
Well, you talk about the copies. Rupert was investigating, trying to find copies of the sarcophagus, and his son was going behind him, trying to do same thing through same contacts. Not my contacts. if he go through my contacts, then maybe he would find what he's looking for. But he went through the not so reputable people where they take advantage of people very easy. And Rupert could be very trusting at times.
It does give him a motive of sorts. I did see him leave town, and he was driving in the direction of this farmhouse that Mary mentioned.
You think maybe the farmhouse has the sarcophagus? Sarcophagus.
I'm not sure.
English words are so strange.
Mr. Merriweather did mention that some of the materials that we would need would be there, including Marion Allen's translation of the relevant sections of the Durimis Mysterious.
If he translated properly.
Perhaps the sarcophagus, even a copy, is vital to whatever they were doing there. Perhaps Mary's son was able to acquire one of these things and looked to...
Rupert found one, and now the son is going after it.
I see.
Maybe
Yes.
Rupert found the real one. Sometimes the shady dealers can strike gold.
Literally.
Not every rock is rock.
As Freud would say, David, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, no?
And as he watches her take that puff from the cigarette, he'll just sort of arch a brow. I thought you would go with cigarette, but that's equally true. Yes. At times it's a phallus.
Yes, that's what I meant.
I think that's also one of Freud's theories, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
He sort of gestures at her suit.
Oh, I see.
Well-educated woman. I respect that.
No, I am not. I am simply, I keep my ear to the ground. That is all.
Sometimes that's enough.
So then, with that, we must either we must confirm at the house if the young lad did indeed take the items that we need, and if he did, then we must retrieve them.
And one thing, Wolf, I'd wanted to do during this little montage while I'm with David and he's doing the research.
Yeah.
I wanted to check in on that dust of
Ibn
Ghazi?
Ghazi.
Yeah. You find nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. Not a thing.
It's like his dust and wind.
Yeah. Yep. No questioning. No one's ever heard of it. No one's ever doesn't know what it is. No idea. But if you recall, and I may fill you in, apparently all of the equipment that they used for the original ritual was left at the farmhouse.
Yep.
So perhaps there's some dust there.
What they say.
So they say. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
And did David have any success cross-referencing the symptoms of Mr. Merriweather with known diseases or his investigation into that and the deaths of the other people?
I love
There was any
that.
correlation?
I'd like you to make a... Do you have any sort of medicine?
I do have medicine at some level.
I'll let you do that or library use. Your choice.
I suppose medicine would make more sense. So let's go medicine. Skills.
Excited.
Don't be.
It would be 6 luck to pass.
Yeah.
That let me check the skill, or
Yeah, if you just spend the 6 luck, you win. Or succeed, I guess.
okay, I will spend the 6 luck. To
Done.
pass.
All right, you spend the 6 luck, you pass. So you do your research. You find that it appears he had Ebola. It appears he had a really bad flu, shingles, some sort of weird flesh-eating virus. I mean, all matter of things could have been the symptoms he had, but all of them mixed together and then built into like a super disease. And the only thing that you can't find any information on is this gout of blood. Vomiting, sure, projectile vomiting, but not like that. Not like that. And the records you actually are able to acquire, being the executor of his estate through the actual teaching hospital, doctors are baffled. And it's very quickly kind of getting brushed under the proverbial rug as a strange case of, like, his cause of death is listed as bacterial or something.
Yeah, CDC wasn't established until 1946.
Yeah.
So
Just missed.
Cause of death, blood loss.
Exsanguination.
extreme.
Yeah. That's horrible.
Can one person have that many illnesses at the same time?
These are the questions. So at this point, we come to a moment where you've all kind of collaborated together. You've done your research. You've shared all the information. It's late in the evening. You've had your evening coffees. She actually bought some tea for you. The woman that runs this establishment, she does care about her guests. She went out and got some actual tea. It's not as good as the tea back home, Reginald.
Oh, no.
But it's okay.
I brought my own tea.
Imported. All right, perfect. You brought your own tea. Perfect.
Like the half the trunk that Bernard is.
It's just tea.
It's just tea.
Sir, I have your tea trunk, sir. But we digress again. So, you have a moment. Do you want to just head out the next morning? Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with one another? How would we like to proceed?
How close is the farmhouse from where we are?
You don't have an exact location because it's out where there's not actual addresses. You know the general area where it's located. It's off of, Elm and Oak, out past this small town. There's a small village called Ross's Corners you have to travel through. So you could probably go there and ask for directions. They might know. But it's only about 4 miles outside of town.
Okay.
Due west.
Well, what time is it now?
In the evening? 8 o'clock.
I think it is rapidly approaching the time that we should see the farmhouse. But before we do this, I think I'm going to head out to this village. I'm just going to take a quick drive through, see if I spot the car belonging to Mary's son or his driver. Yeah. If it is there outside of this farmhouse or anywhere in the village, then we are certain that something has happened. And we should be on our guard.
If you will permit me, madam, may I join you?
Provided you do not complain about the tea or Americans or my cigarette smoking or any of this, then yes, you are more than welcome.
I will be the perfect gentleman.
If I may, Miss Amara, Merriweather's son did demonstrate a propensity towards violence. He was willing to strike me, and that would have been a profoundly poor choice on his part. Considering, and he gestures over at Bakery, and his sort of enfeebled condition, his age, making note of that, and then towards yourself.
My
you
boy,
should be prepared.
Are you insinuating that I am not prepared enough to be defended by Miss Amari? Amara, oh, I am very sorry. But if the need be, I do have a friend, and he pats his side where there's a slight bulge under his hunting
Oh, I thought that you were referring to Bernard, in which case you would be in grave danger. No
Lover,
offense.
not a fighter, sir.
Bernard could never nigh hurt a fly.
Nonetheless, my point is simply that you should be careful of him.
That is why I suggested I go with.
I do not need the protection or the oversight of a bunch of braggadocious men. I will allow you to come with me, Reginald, but I can assure you, and she opens up her suit jacket, and you can see that one of the shoulder holsters, the 1911 is nestled in there. I also have a friend, and he is louder than yours.
And as I was saying to our young friend here, I will let you defend me with all my honor.
And he just sort of like raises his hands almost defensively. You can see that they're almost larger than his head, given his sort of misshapen features. I didn't mean anything of that sort. It's just I understand certain people's
Do not worry, my
proclivities.
boy. We totally understand.
Is this,
Don't speak for me. I don't entirely understand.
would Freud talk about caliber envy?
It's possible.
I think
Okay.
symbolically it would
I-
have the similar sort of connotation. Yes.
I am understanding now.
I just meant I know people who can become violent, and he is one of them. He is not above duplicitous and cowardly action. So watch yourselves.
If that
Do you need-
happens, I will be sure to shoot him in the most painful spot I can come up with.
Now, if you go in, you be the front, and you have somebody looking over you. That could be me, and maybe Mr. David go with me, and we just look out for you in case something happens. You're doing everything up front, but just in case. That way we can keep eyes in back of your head. Is that the right way to say?
Close enough.
I believe the plan is that everyone's going in 2 different cars.
Mhm.
Brilliant. And we're going at night. Is that correct? God bless you. So we cut to a scene. About an hour later, you guys finish up your evening coffee or tea. You get dressed, or if you're already dressed, you put yourselves together. Make sure your 1911's loaded. Great line, by the way, Prof X. That was funny. And my friend's bigger and made louder than yours. It was good. But we cut to a scene of you driving into the sleepy town, small town of Ross's Corner. I say town because there are several buildings, but that's the downtown. There's several buildings. There's a little convenience store, a little gas station. It's
Church.
It's about 9 o'clock. There's a church, exactly. It's about 9:30ish by the time you get there. The sun is set, but there's a couple of, it's not like power, there's not like power lines, it's just like little lanterns and stuff. You actually see sitting on the front porch of the gas station is an old woman. You see she looks to be knitting, just like under the lamplight. It's kind of rocking as you guys slowly drive by. She just kind of looks up, squints over at you, just gives you that look and just watches as your car drives by. Second car drives by, just watches. And as you're driving through town, do you stop? Do you ask for directions? Are you going to make any like sort of like spot hidden checks? Are you trying to find the car tracks? What are you guys looking for?
Since I had direct eyes on the car, I'm looking for like, with the lights that's provided by the headlamps and any sort of other kind of lighting, just to see if I can see that car. I mean, I would be able to identify.
Give us a spot hidden. I want to see if you notice something. It's not going to be a difficult check. It's an easy check.
Well, don't say that. Now I'm gonna mess it up.
I mean, ideally. Oh yeah.
Wait.
Mess that one up. Yeah.
Wait. Okay, how much is this? 29.
Don't do that. You need
A
to live
lot.
later on.
That's a lot. You could do it.
Wait,
think
hold
you
on.
should-
Let me push the roll.
Okay. You can do
I
that.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, let me push the roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see some, some vehicles and everything. And I was intending on just staying inside the car the whole time.
Mhm.
But instead, if I see something that looks promising, I'm going to park the car,
Yes.
get out,
Mhm.
go to the trunk,
Mhm.
grab my torch, right?
Mhm.
And go out on foot
Yeah.
to try to.
So here's what's interesting. This particular town doesn't seem to get a lot of car traffic. It's mostly looks like it's horse-drawn buggies, things like that. It's very much a podunky town, even though it's only 4 miles outside of the larger city of Arkham. So perhaps you notice what you think might be car treads that look pretty fresh. And the reason they look fresh is because a little bit of rain has started to fall this evening. It's not like a thunderstorm or anything, but it's gotten a little bit overcast. There's some rain. The ground's a little wet, and there looks to be some relatively fresh tracks, but you want to get a little closer and see if they look like actual car treads versus wagon wheels. Yeah.
Right. Then I'll do that. I will expose myself to greater harm with a torch.
Perfect. So you get out of the car. Maybe you park in front of the little gas station. The old woman is kind of rocking back and forth, and she looks up. Not from around these parts, then?
What gave it away?
Well, you're driving a vehicle. We don't get many visitors these parts. Strange times around here. Strange times indeed. Rocking back and forth.
And how are they strange, my dear madam, as I'm getting out of the car as well?
Excellent. Also,
Oh, good. We can all die.
also exposing yourself to harm as well. She squints her eyes again, looking over. Where's that accent from? Both y'all.
I look at Mara first.
I look at him. Yeah.
I'm from London, my dear lady.
France.
I hear France, they got themselves some good food over in France. She starts to kind of ramble about things, but she seems to be confused. It could be, she's going late stage dementia. It could be something else, but I want to give you guys a chance. If you'd like to press and interact with her, ask her any questions, you may do so. If you'd simply like to let her ramble on about her knitting, you may do so as well. It's entirely up to you.
At the mention earlier of not a lot of vehicles, I asked her, you said, milady, that there weren't a lot of other vehicles. Have you seen any recently other than ours?
Give me a charm or fast talk.
Both of which I suck at. It's going to be amazing.
Perfect. Wow. That's a hard success.
I mean, it's the accent, right?
It is the accent.
Everybody
It
loves
entices her.
Automatic bonus.
Yeah. As you were asking this question, she goes, "It's funny, we don't get many cars driving through our town here. But you're the second one I've seen tonight. First one came through here about, I'd say maybe about 40 or so minutes before you did. It turned down the road just up there off of Oak. Heading off towards that old farmhouse. Shouldn't be, though. That place is haunted. I say absolutely haunted."
Haunted, you say? By Jove.
I shouldn't speak no more of it. No, sir. No, sir. She actually goes to get up, the creaking of her little rocking chair. She drops she kind of drops this, looks like she's working on some sort of maybe scarf or like the front part of a sweater. You notice that it appears that she is knitting a symbol into that sweater, and it's the same symbol that you saw in the blood splatter. You can just barely make out kind of the top part. There's a little foot that comes off the side, kind of hieroglyph.
Am I close enough to interact with my cane?
To poke it? No, she's up on a porch. You're about maybe 6-7 feet away from her where the car's parked. But she kind of drops it. You see it for a moment, then she goes to pick it back up, turns, starts to walk back inside the store.
That's a very interesting design you have there, ma'am.
She looks down at it. Whatever do you mean? It's just bold colors.
Very bold colors.
She holds it up, and you see only bold colors. Just straight lines of blue and red and white. Very patriotic.
Ah, the good old red, white, and blue. Thank you again, my lady.
Did you see something?
I wait for the old lady to be
Right.
out of
The
earshot.
two of you in the truck that were following, you finally pulled up. You see the two of them standing just beside the still running vehicle in front of this porch. And you see a woman slipping back inside this storefront.
Anton, do you know why they stopped?
I don't know. It looks like Mara wanted to talk to the lady on the porch. Do you see anything? Is this type of area where you grow up?
Farmhouse, not too far from here, actually.
Do you see anything out of the ordinary from what you remember?
GM, does anything seem amiss?
Nothing really seems amiss right now. Nothing really seems amiss, no.
By the way, Wolf, did you want me to, since I pushed that spot hidden roll,
Yeah.
do you want me to go again?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Brilliant.
There we
You
go.
find car tracks. They're very distinct because they're a little bit deeper. They have they have treads versus just kind of like lines down the
Yeah.
road, and they do indeed go up. They look to curve off a little side road that heads off into some dark and unlit side road, as it were.
So have Reginald and I seen the other car pull up?
They're
Okay.
about maybe 15, 20 feet from you, enough to where if you wanted to roll down the window, you could shout out, "Hey, what's going on?"
I'm going to I'll just gesture towards them, like I'll keep my hand up and I'll make some broad gestures like, we're going this way, right? Follow us, so that I don't have to walk all the way over there or try to say something in, the rain or anything. Reginald, what did you see?
For a second, I was sure I saw the same hieroglyph.
Amara would take the 1911 out of the shoulder holster, and get it ready.
Rigel does the same with his little revolver, just like making sure it's now easily accessible.
Get in. And so we'd get back into the car, and I would make sure that it's still going, right? And so I just start to drive slowly down to follow the tracks.
And as you all follow the tracks slowly down the road, you drive for a mile, 2 miles. The rain starts to pick up. You can hear it on the metal roof of both vehicles. It starts to it almost sounds like hail. As you get closer and closer, there is then a flash of thunder, flash of lightning, then a roll of thunder, and the storm has really started to pick up. You get closer and closer and closer. Mara and Reginald, you're in the front, and as you're driving slowly, the car is starting to kind of get a little bogged down. This car isn't designed for off-road. Your truck, Anton, is doing all right, but it's starting to get muddier and muddier and muddier. These are all old, dirt, muddy back roads. You finally see something, Amara. It looks as though the dirt road starts to curve to the right. There's a very thick tree line. You can see these thick, low-hanging trees. A lot of them seem to have lost their leaves already. You can see just the branches. Again, the rain's starting to come down in these sheets and sheets and sheets. But as there is another flash of lightning, you look up and you see what looks to be the car that you saw the Rupert Jr., as it were, Rupert's young son, drive away in. It is off the side of the road in a ditch. The lamp lights are still on. The driver's side door is open, and you can see with the headlights looking out, even though the rain is coming down thick, you can see that one of the front tires, the passenger side tire, appears to be blown. Either he lost control of the car or something, but you see that the driver's side door is open and those lamp lights are still on, but there doesn't appear to be anyone inside.
I would bring my car to a stop, making sure that the headlights are shining in the direction of that driver's side. Park the car. I'm going to take a look. Stay here for now. If you see anything that looks suspicious, dangerous, feel free to rescue the damsel in distress.
Very well.
And so I open the car, the rain. I'm sort of, shielding myself a little bit from the heavy rain. I'll draw my pistol and I'll have that ready down, right? I'm sort of pointing it down. And then heading slowly towards the open driver's side door.
Excellent.
And when I see the car go off in the road, and I see her start getting out to go, walking over to it, I go to David. Do you know how to use shotgun?
I grew up on a farm.
That's what I'm hoping here. Behind your seat is 12 gauge. Just in case something happens to...
And David will just sort of nod slightly and reach back behind the seat to withdraw the shotgun, checking it to see if it's functional and prepared.
It appears to be functional and prepared.
Good thing we didn't go over any heavy bumps.
You really shouldn't keep these loaded.
Has safety. Just finger.
As you get close to the car, Amaro, you can see that there's a bit more light that starts to illuminate around you. There's kind of the shadow that casts out in front of you. And as you watch from the headlamps of your own vehicle and the slightly higher off the ground, the truck that Anton is driving, you can see the shadow start to elongate. And you watch as your shadow, Amara, seems to stretch out, almost like you've got your hand off to the side with the gun. You're like reaching forward, you're moving. You can see it almost looks like a hand, like a long, almost bony-like hand that is stretching out. And what's strange is that your shadow doesn't seem to go beyond the car itself, but almost as though it gets to that open door and seems to curve slightly to the right. And you feel yourself kind of being drawn towards it every step, a little bit more solid, a little bit thump. You no longer even hear the rain anymore, and as you get to about 10 feet from the door, you can see inside, and there seems to be someone sitting in the driver's side, in the driver's seat, as it were. Someone's sitting there. You notice a hand that is off on the side, and that hand, that left hand, seems to be holding an object. You recognize it looks to be a revolver of some kind, You get closer. You get closer, and you notice two things as you perhaps slowly start to raise your gun. You look inside. That shadow seems to be kind of cast, and for a moment you see just the kind of black shadowy outline of a body of some sort. You can just see the hand, but as you maybe shake your head, wipe the water, the rain still coming down, there is a flash of lightning, that roll of thunder quickly following, and as the entire area is illuminated, you see that you are standing kind of in the corner, the car off to your right. There is a long road that leads down to an old dilapidated farmhouse with a large barn with a red roof behind it. The entire scene is illuminated. You see that all of the plants, all of the greenery around here looks to be dead, rotten, decaying. The grass itself is all brown. The building seems to be all boarded up, but what is the most disturbing that sitting in the driver's seat of this car is a headless man, or maybe a woman, you're not sure, but their head is missing. And there is a gun, and you look down, you see that the revolver is still smoking. I need you to roll me a sanity check, please. As the interior of that vehicle is completely doused in blood. The seats, the roof, the dashboard, the wheel, everything is covered in blood.
This means nothing to me.
You hold it together. You've seen the horrors of war.
I was in the Great War.
You were in the Great War. You've seen worse than this. But you recognize the suit that this person is wearing. It is Rupert Merriweather's son. His head is gone. With one more flash of lightning, the farmstead is illuminated, and for the briefest of moments, you think you hear a low kind of waft over through the kind of storm and the rain and the wind. And that, my friends, is where we're going to end today's session. Right there. Absolutely delightful. Good job, everybody. It's a lot of fun. Absolutely. A lot of fun. How's everyone feeling? Feeling pretty good so far, hopefully. Terrified,
Look
maybe?
at my boots.
Oh,
Only normal amounts of blood.
that's good. That was a normal amount of blood, Amara. But I want to compliment everyone. I thought everyone did a great job with the research, looking into it. You've discovered that there's even more to this mystery. And good news, David. Apparently you don't have anyone to contest your inheritance, which is delightful.
That's a plus.
But
If
yes,
David wasn't with me, I might say that he did this to the son to take him out the picture.
plausible deniability
But
Wait.
he was with me whole time.
whole time.
And
Well
as you said, nothing of value was lost.
Oh. But as I always say at the end of every session, from the players, any final thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up today's session?
Magnificent session.
You guys are
Great
doing
stuff.
great. I'm having a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Well, as I
Awesome.
always say at the end of every session, thank you so freaking much to the players for playing. You guys are doing absolutely fantastic. It's a joy to run this game for you. Thank you so much to the viewers for viewing. It's always nice to have people watch. And happy gaming, everyone. We'll catch you guys next week. Same game time, same game place for session 3, the investigation of the actual farmhouse, where our investigators will find out if it's all just hogwash, as it were. But I'm starting to think it might not be. But be well and be safe.
Except David. David
We'll
is
see you
for
next
sure
time.
like,
Just
no.
a bear. Just a bear.
I have a feeling.
That's it.
I have a feeling it's going to blow our minds.
Ooh, there it is. There it is.
Ah.
Be well and be safe, everybody. We'll see you next week.